Katrina pounds Louisiana and Mississippi. Stay with 11 News for the most complete coverage of this killer storm. Live reports throughout the day and night, showing you the latest pictures of the devastation. From the eye of the storm to Katrina's impact on Houston, 11 News has more reporters covering this story from every angle. And turn to hurricane expert Dr. Neil Frank for the most reliable track of Katrina. For the most up-to-the-minute coverage of Katrina, trust 11 News.
The time is 6:41. Rescue crews will head back out today across the Gulf Coast in hopes of finding more survivors as Katrina moves north.
11 News reporter Dave Cassidy joins us live from Baton Rouge this morning. Dave, how are things there this morning?
Ron and Deborah, what Deborah was just saying about looking for survivors in Louisiana and Mississippi, every official saying that is still the top priority. That while they had several hours of daylight yesterday without severe storms, this morning is when it's calm, the sun's going to be out. They're going to get their best chance yet to look for additional people who might still be on rooftops in east of New Orleans, who might be wandering around in a bit of a daze or huddled someplace that need to be moved to a safer location. A lot of concern over toward Mississippi and the Gulfport area, Biloxi. The mayor there is saying we have had our tsunami, that 20-foot wall of water that was the storm surge that was so big a concern in New Orleans. That really went east and just flattened parts of the Mississippi Gulfport area. An estimated, without official death toll, of a death toll around 80 plus now in Mississippi. That dwarfs anything we're hearing so far in Louisiana. It would appear, not first, that a whole lot more Louisianans got out maybe than some of the people in Mississippi, but then also when the hurricane moved a little bit east of New Orleans, it meant the worst of it was going to hit eastern Louisiana along the coast and then into Mississippi, and that appears to be what happened. Ron and Deborah.
All right, Dave, a lot of people are very anxious. Any idea of when they might be able to go home and see what they have left?
There's a meeting going on here in Baton Rouge where we are now with the governor and other Louisiana state officials. I'll be very surprised if they change their message from last night. The governor, Kathleen Blanco, was begging people, in her words last night, not to come home. She cites that even if you came to a house, there's no drinking water in New Orleans, and since you won't have power, you won't be able to boil the water to use it. Plus, the roads getting in and out of these areas are full of debris, in many cases still water covered. We may get some official word from the state today, but my guess is they're going to say, please stay away, maybe until the weekend. That's just a guess. We'll hear something else a little later today. All
right, Dave Cassidy reporting live from Baton Rouge. Thank you very much. If you are in our area waiting for things to clear up before you head home, you are asked to call the Louisiana State Police first. They will tell you if it is safe for you to go back to your area of the state. You can reach the state troopers at the number on your screen, 1-800-469-4828.
Despite a mandatory evacuation order, some people in the Big Easy decided to ride out the storm in their homes. A reporter caught up with one man who weathered Katrina's wind and rain in the French Quarter.
Well, the wall just started moving in and out. We had it tied up with some come-alongs. They had a hunch that it might go.
And it went.
This man found himself trapped in his home after Katrina took out its frustrations on the building. He was not hurt, but the front wall of his home was destroyed.
Some residents ignored the advice to stay put after the storm passed. This driver ran into problems when the road ended underwater. Luckily for him, a TV reporter came to his rescue. That reporter is Chris Merriweather, who's with our sister station, WWL, in New Orleans. He ran through the waist-deep water and pulled the man to safety through his car window. The man says he just didn't realize he was in trouble until it was too late.
I was driving I-10 westbound trying to get to Kenner to the Williams Boulevard exit, and I didn't see the water. It just blends in with the gray of the road, and I just drove right into it. So, but it was my fault. It was a stupid thing to do, and I did it.
Flooded roads are a common scene along the coast, and we're told it could be days before the water recedes. Just to the east of New Orleans, we're hearing that an estimated 40,000 homes are underwater in St. Bernard Parish. We are still waiting for the first pictures out of that particular area.
Of course, it's going to be another rough day in that part of the world. People assessing the damage, trying to find some more victims. David Paul, what's the latest on Katrina and our weather?
And of course, our heart goes out to those people who have many, many days ahead of them of rough conditions. The weather is quiet, not only here, but in New Orleans, it's also quiet. We have radar that's showing no rain, just some ground clutter here and there. These are false echoes. It's partly cloudy out there. Here's a look at the big radar. You can see Houston quiet, a couple of showers well offshore. New Orleans is dry this morning, at least nothing coming from the sky. Here's what's left of Katrina, still a tropical storm, winds of about 45 miles an hour west of Nashville right now. All the rain to the north of Nashville into Illinois, Indiana, and Cincinnati, Ohio, getting plenty of rain today. Back out into the tropics, we have a couple of areas we're paying attention to. This is what's left of what was Tropical Depression 14. At weekend, it's no longer depression, but we're keeping an eye on this area here for possible redevelopment. And this area of disturbed weather far out in the open Atlantic, at the moment not showing any signs of developing, but we're keeping an eye on it. The Caribbean and the Gulf are very quiet right now. Here's another look at the national radar. Houston and East Texas, watch what happened yesterday. We had an outer band get us, and we had some scattered heavy showers yesterday afternoon. I don't think we'll see that today. I think just really hot and humid and only an isolated shower or two. And you see the circulation moving in through Mississippi into Tennessee and Kentucky now. And Katrina will continue to move on through as a tropical storm for many more hours as it heads up through Ohio and then West Pennsylvania and into upstate New York, dumping heavy rain all along the way. Bush Intercontinental Airport right now, 75 degrees, humid. Sugar Land 74, Galveston at 80. And the forecast for the day has a west breeze at 5 to 10 miles an hour and a high of 98 and hot and humid. Heat index will be above 100 today. 10% is the best chance we'll have for an isolated shower or two. The extended forecast, hot and humid, upper 90s on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and rain chances very slim. And then Saturday and Sunday, we think we may break the heat wave, at least for a bit. Highs in the upper 60s, and, highs in the upper 60s. That would be nice. Lows in the upper 60s. Highs in the low 90s Saturday and Sunday. Not a big cool down, but a little break from the heat and humidity.
Good morning, everybody. Let's take a live look outside right now, downtown Houston, as the sun is rising. You ready for a hot day? It's going to be hot today. So are you ready?
No.
Loose-fitting clothing, hydrating, all that other stuff, Deborah?
Yes.
Drink plenty of water.
Okay.
All right, the time is now 6:53.
Mom, thank you.
Yeah, I know. I can act like I can act like your dad at times. I'm old enough to be your dad. All right, the time is now 6:53. Let's check back in with our small mind at large.
Or look at what he's working on for our 7 o'clock hour. Can I borrow some money?
It just got really weird in here. Top of the morning to Houston. I'm Jonathan Walton. Here now is a sneak peek of what will be orbiting Walton's world this morning. Why is the same sport played on so many different surfaces?
I don't want ants in my pants.
Yeah.
I just want to play the game. Can I finish, Larry? Can I finish? That's my Ross Perot impression.
Very good.
Thank you.
From the French to the Australian to Wimbledon.
I think you're on grass.
No, you're on grass.
I think we're both on grass.
We've got a complete breakdown for you coming up this morning on Walton's World, a small mind at large. Heading your way at 7:57, like the airplane, 7:57, or 57, depending on what side of the Mason-Dixon line.
The street lingo.
Right. 7:57.
There's nothing to cough at. All right, thanks a lot, Jonathan Walton. The time is now 6:54. We're watching the roads for you this morning.
We'll have another check on traffic coming up.
Good morning and welcome back. It's 6:56. Let's check in with meteorologist David Paul one more time.
Quick look at it. Good morning. It's a quiet morning. Radar is quiet. No rain out there. Just partly cloudy and warm and humid. Bush 75. Galveston's at 80. Today, a west breeze 5 to 10. Hot. High 98. Heat index over 100. 10% chance for an isolated shower today. Hot and humid for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then we think we may get a little break in the heat on Saturday and Sunday. Darby Douglas, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Dave. Well, we just cleared up an accident, Gulf Freeway inbound Lockwood. All lanes are open, but it will be slow. But then we have a stall. Take a look with our hotspot camera shot, courtesy of Houston TransStar. Disabled vehicle, they're pulling it off as we speak. The HOV lane at Broadway was on the right side. Traffic will be heavy. Elsewhere around town, Gulf Freeway, North Freeway inbound feeder right before Spring Cypress. We have an accident blocking the right lane on the feeder, not the freeway.
All right, thank you, Darby.
It's now 6:57.
Hurricane Katrina not only forced thousands of people away from their homes, but the storm also left hundreds of four-legged friends without a place to call home. How you can help out.
And with oil prices being so volatile, Katrina sent waves of trouble through the market, and that could wind up fueling even higher prices at the pump. Not that we want to hear that.
Now, getting you out the door with everything you'll need to know. This is 11 News This Morning.
The U.S. Coast Guard continues to search neighborhoods in New Orleans for stranded people who decided to brave the storm. As floodwaters rose, many people were forced to get on their rooftops. In some cases, rescuers had to saw holes to get people out of their attics. And according to the governor of Mississippi, the death toll there could now be as high as 80.
In places like Biloxi, it looks like a war zone. Cars piled on top of cars, tossed around as if they were toys. Only broken lumber remains in some areas where the buildings used to stand.
Welcome back to 11 News This Morning. I'm Deborah Duncan.
And I'm Ron Trevino. Let's check in with meteorologist David Paul for the latest in Katrina and our weather.
And you saw those pictures. You had a foundation, you had a brick home totally destroyed. Yeah. So even those structures that are solidly built, when you're close to the coastline and you get a major hurricane, you've got to get out because even those big structures can be wiped off the face. Let's look outside at the radar. And first of all, we'll give you an allergy update. There's something new in the air. We've got ragweed pollen now showing up in the pollen count at low levels, but if you're a ragweed sufferer, this is just the beginning of your season coming in. Ozone watch is in effect today. We may reach unhealthy levels for sensitive groups later in the day. Our local radar is quiet. We have no rain out there. A couple of false echoes up at the top of the screen, but those are false echoes. No rain. We're partly cloudy. Here's the big radar. No rain in New Orleans this morning. They may get a shower later in the day, but you see the circulation of Katrina, still a tropical storm up there west of Nashville with all the rain north of the center into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky. Heavy rain there today. Bush Sugar Continental, 75 degrees. Galveston at 80. Warm, humid morning. Hot day today. The heat will be on. 98 is the forecast high. Heat index in the mid to, about 105 to 110 today. So be careful out there with the heat. Only a 10% rain chance. The extended, it stays hot and humid, upper 90s Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then it looks like we may get a little break in the heat wave the first weekend of September. Saturday and Sunday, lows in the upper 60s, highs in the lower 90s, and lower humidity on Saturday and Sunday. There's a look at weather.
All right, thank you very much. The time is 7:01. Of course, many people came to Houston, but many people also from southern Louisiana are in Baton Rouge this morning, waiting to be told when they can return to their homes.
But that will be a while. This morning, we've learned 2 levee breaches are sending floodwaters pouring into low-lying areas of New Orleans. 11 News reporter Dave Cassidy is in Baton Rouge with more on Katrina's aftermath. Dave.
Hi, Ron and Deborah. There's sun out, something we haven't seen in a couple of days, and the bright sunshine will give people in New Orleans and points east a chance to assess the damage, including the latest problems you're mentioning about the last thing they need there, more floodwaters. Just heard from the Red Cross. They're prepared to send people in from Texas to stage here in Baton Rouge and then head into New Orleans. The damage in New Orleans is extensive, not as bad as it might have been if the city took the direct hit, but certainly bad enough. Downtown buildings damaged, windows blown out, street flooding, and then particularly east of New Orleans, much heavier flooding. You may recall the talk about the Superdome. It was damaged. The roof was torn off a little bit. We're told there's no structural damage there, but it did allow water in on people who thought they were in the safest place they could be. It was safe. It just turned out to be wet, and the 10,000 people in there, for all we know, are still there because there's probably no place for all those people to go yet. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management people, saying it may be weeks that people are going to need housing, and they need to get all of their folks in to start putting up temporary housing as needed. So that's going to go on for a while. And then east of New Orleans into Mississippi, where the death toll is 80 plus unofficially, that's where the 20-foot storm surge hit. There's been a lot of development along the coastline there in Gulfport, in Biloxi, and the Biloxi mayor saying we have had our tsunami. That's the kind of water that hit the Gulfport area yesterday. They're just going to get their first good look at what's left there this morning. Ron and Deborah?
All right, thank you so much, Dave Cassidy.
Even though Katrina has been downgraded to a tropical storm, it's still dumping a lot of rain, causing flooding in Alabama and Tennessee. In Alabama, 2 people were killed trying to drive through the storm. There was widespread flooding in Mobile. Major highways and homes are underwater. A few people ventured out during the storm and quickly found themselves overpowered by the wind.
It's a heart-wrenching story out of Biloxi, Mississippi. This man was trapped in his home with his wife and their grandkids when the storm surge came ashore. He explains what happened next.
We got up in the roof, all the way to the roof, and water came and had just opened up, divided.
Who was at your house with you?
My wife.
Where is she now?
Can't find her body. She gone.
Harvey Jackson says he tried to hold his wife's hand, but he couldn't. Before she drifted away, she told them to take care of their children and grandkids. Officials say the death toll is likely to continue to rise as search and recovery efforts begin.
It will be a while before we know the dollar amount of damage Katrina has caused. One early estimate says insured losses could run as high as $26 billion. If that figure proves true, it would make Hurricane Katrina more expensive than Hurricane Andrew, which caused $21 billion in insured losses in 1992. The time is 7:05. Dozens of residents who escaped Louisiana before Katrina hit are taking up residence in the Houston area.
Some shelters were open for the evacuees, including one in Baytown in the 2400 block of Market Street. 11 News reporter Reggie Evacuee is live there with more this morning. Good morning, Reggie.
Good morning. It's a really different scene this morning compared to yesterday. Yesterday we were out here early in the morning as people were coming in from Louisiana. A lot of them were very tired and they brought their kids, and so they're looking for something to do, and they're spending a lot of time watching the TV and talking to each other and just kind of forming a community in these shelters. This morning they're just dead tired, so they spent much of the night just on their cots asleep, and they are very few of them awake at this point. They're just going to wait until those highway signs finally tell them that it's okay to go back home. Many of them who are staying either in the shelters or the hotels decided to make a trip to a Walmart or another supercenter last night to pick up supplies, not just the supplies they need this week as they're away from home, but supplies they may need when they finally get back home, considering that there's really no running water in those areas, there's no electricity there, and not many places to shop. The family that that you just saw close that door there brought along a very smart thing, a picture book, so that they have memories pre-hurricane.
Yeah, we took a lot of the stuff that we figured was real important, that if the house was gone or the whole thing got flooded, because we know people that live in St. Bernard Parish that they have water to the top of their roof.
There are 183 people at this shelter and about 100 at a second shelter that's opened by the Red Cross this morning. Right now, they're asking for toiletries and towels. That's what these folks really need right now as they ferry them from this location over to a college gymnasium where they're going to use the locker rooms there to get these people showered. So if you want to donate something and you have some extra towels, or you can go out and buy some of those small toiletry items that they might need, the Red Cross says that is very much appreciated. Reporting live, Reggie Evacuee, 11 News.
There's a toll-free number to get information about shelters in case you know someone still looking for a place to stay. That number is 1-866-GET-INFO.
We don't know how many evacuees are temporarily calling Houston home, but we do know at least 55,000 hotel rooms have been filled. Most of the evacuees have been glued to the TV set watching what Katrina has done. Some say they feel helpless being so far from home, but are glad to have been out of harm's way. The evacuation didn't seem to bother a couple of kids we spoke with who admitted they're glad to get a break from school.
About 75 CenterPoint Energy linemen are on their way to Louisiana this morning. They'll work to restore the power. Coming to the aid of other states is nothing new to the Houston-based energy company. Some crews are already working in Miami to get the power back on there after Katrina hit that area last week. Around 2 o'clock this morning, 4 busloads of volunteers from Home Depot left for Louisiana and Mississippi. The volunteers will fill the void left by fellow employees who have to take care of their families and homes.
Stay with 11 News for up-to-the-minute coverage of the storm. We have crews in Louisiana, Mississippi, and of course here at home following the latest on the aftermath of Katrina.
Now getting you out the door with everything you'll need to know. This is 11 News This Morning.
I'm Reggie Evacuee. From Katrina to a Red Cross shelter cot. A lot of folks are waking up this morning once again wondering when they can go home. A live report's coming up.
She came and she destroyed. This is what Hurricane Katrina has done. I'm Bianca Solorzano in Biloxi, Mississippi with a first look at this powerful storm's damage. That story is coming up.
And while thousands of evacuees are spending another day away from their homes, we've found hundreds of others who are now looking for a new place to live. How you can help these furry Cajuns.
Welcome back to 11 News This Morning. I'm Deborah Duncan.
And I'm Ron Trevino. The time is now 7:25. Let's check in with meteorologist David Paul.
Good morning, everybody. Quickly, the allergy update. Grass pollen is low, tree pollen none. Ragweed is showing up now. Ragweed at low levels, but it's there. Mold spores are heavy. Ozone watch in effect today. Hot day. And unhealthy levels of ozone for sensitive groups may be reached later in the day. Radar has nothing on it. SkyMax 11 is all quiet. There's the action. This is Katrina, now a tropical storm just west of Nashville. Lots of rain north of the center. The center's right in here west of Nashville. A little feeder band across the Gulf and through the outer reaches of the southeast Louisiana coastline up through Atlanta. They may see big thunderstorms in Georgia today on this feeder band, but nothing like that in Houston today. We had pretty good thunder showers on a little band outer lying yesterday. There they are for Houston. I don't think that will happen today. I think we'll just be hot and humid, and all the rain will be up here along Katrina's future path, which continues to take it right on up just west of the Appalachian Mountain chain. So folks in Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, they get heavy rain as Katrina moves along that path for the next day or two. Bush 75, warm, humid morning in Houston. Galveston's at 80 degrees. Forecast is hot and humid, high of 98 today. Heat index 105 to 110. Use your hot weather precautions. It will be very hot and humid today. Just a 10% chance for a shower today, and then upper 90s for highs Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Very hot. Looks like we may get a little break from the heat for the weekend. Lows in the upper 60s, highs in the lower 90s Saturday and Sunday. There's your weather. Back to the news desk now.
Thank you so much, David.
The time is 7:27. Hurricane Katrina's second strike is being blamed for killing at least 55 people on the Gulf Coast, and that number actually might be as high as 80, according to the governor of Mississippi.
At least 50 of those people killed were in one Mississippi county, and 30 of those reportedly lived in the same apartment complex in Biloxi.
Bianca Solorzano is in Biloxi, Mississippi, with the very latest.
Good morning. So many people waking up to the very harsh reality of just how ferocious Hurricane Katrina was. She had no mercy for the people in this area. Here in Biloxi, at least 50 people were killed, 30 of them in one beachside apartment building that collapsed during the storm. And unfortunately, the death toll is expected to rise. No one has a full picture of Katrina's destruction yet, but this is the view over New Orleans.
Looks like a bomb completely blew up the side of the building.
And this is the damage in just one Biloxi neighborhood.
It's like somebody dropped a bomb.
All along the Gulf Coast, mountains of debris and too much water. Katrina stormed ashore east of New Orleans. A levee broke and the flooding came fast.
This area is completely underwater. I'm looking at about 5 feet of water everywhere we look.
Residents who didn't follow orders to evacuate scrambled to attics and roofs and waited for rescue. Emergency crews helped hundreds get out, and the governor told everyone it was too dangerous to go back.
The roads are flooded. The power is out, the phones are down, and there is no food or water.
Here in Biloxi, everywhere you look, there is just destruction, whether it's a car that's been smashed, a home just ripped to pieces. As you walk around and look at all the debris, it's really hard to take in. You just look piece by piece and try to figure out what this once was. Katrina's last-minute turn hit Mississippi and Alabama hard. A record 22-foot storm surge and 145-mile-per-hour winds leveled homes.
It is sad. It's just, it was a beautiful place, and it's not anymore.
Death toll estimates have started to come in from coastal Mississippi and are expected to climb. Now, as we had a chance to go out as the hurricane was dying down and just look in this area, we got to talk to people, and everyone has such a dramatic story of what they went through during this hurricane. And not only was the storm rough, but the days ahead will be so difficult. Keep in mind, power still out, no water here. There are so many problems, a rough road ahead for the thousands and thousands of people in this area. Reporting from Biloxi, Mississippi, I'm Bianca Solorzano. Now back to you.
Thank you, Bianca. The time time is now 7:30. Many refugees who couldn't find a hotel room are spending their days in an area shelter.
One of those is in Baytown in the 2400 block of Market Street. 11 News reporter Reggie Evacuees is live there with the latest. Good morning, Reggie.
Good morning. About 180 people spent the night here, and once again this morning they're waking up not really sure when they're going to go home or how many days they're going to have to spend sleeping in a cot. Last night we were around and watching folks as they made some grocery runs to pick up supplies they needed.
$77, and it's just junk, no food.
We're gonna bring stuff that doesn't need to be refrigerated home. Get an ice chest to bring some ice back, because there'll probably be shortages of that there.
We just keep our fingers crossed when we go back, there's somewhere to go back to.
The worst comes to worst, if we don't have power at the house for another 3 or 4 weeks like they say, we'll just park this thing on the side of the house and run the generator and sleep in there till we get power back, you know.
Here at the shelter this morning, the Red Cross is telling us they pretty much got the water and the food situation under control. The problem right now is showers. They are going to be ferrying people from here over to a college campus where they can use the facilities there to get cleaned up. But in order to do that, they really need a lot more towels. They need toiletries. So if you have any of those things or are interested in donating something, that's what the need is this morning. Reporting live, Reggie Evacuees, 11 News.
The time is 7:31. It's estimated more than 1 million people left the New Orleans area ahead of Katrina, and in times like this, the heart of Houston is clearly visible. Houston Mayor Bill White says our friends to the east were here for us during our struggle with Tropical Storm Allison, and now Houston can return the hospitality. Houston Salvation Army spent some time at Sam's Wholesale Foods last night. They bought several carts of food and water that will be taken to those in need.
Sometimes they're just a little depressed, and they just when you hand them a bottle of water or cook them a meal or hand them a snack, we expect to get a relief in their eyes.
Salvation Army drivers will meet this morning in Port Arthur to get instructions on where they are needed the most. We're hearing disturbing reports of some possible price gouging, charging more for services that evacuees desperately need. The East Freeway is an endless stretch of motels, gas stations, and fast food stores. And for those fleeing Louisiana, this was their first chance to find food and a room to stay. For some businesses, it was their first chance to jack up their prices. This Comfort Suites is accused of doubling its price. Evacuee Mario Ringo says the price seemed high, but she needed a room. It was the last one the hotel said was left.
$199
a night.
a night.
Did that seem more than what you expected?
It seemed exorbitant to me, but when you're tired and you have no place to stay, and I didn't have any reservations, it was the only thing I could do.
$199. We are quoting $199.99.
Manisha Gandhi, the general manager, says they tell...
Manisha Gandhi is the general manager. She says they tell people it's $199 a night just to get rid of the riffraff, but in fact that's not the actual price. Mayor Bill White says he spoke with the district attorney, and he says the city of Houston will not tolerate price gouging by any business.
With oil prices being so volatile, Katrina sent waves of trouble through the market, and that could wind up fueling even higher prices at the pump. Already, oil futures jumped above $68 a barrel, and that's before traders get word on the hurricane damage to the Gulf refineries. Offshore rigs were evacuated over a wide stretch of the Gulf, and until helicopters fly back, nobody will know how badly the rigs are damaged, how long repairs will take, and what that effect will be on our nation's energy prices. Analysts say you can definitely expect an increase.
Floodwaters, fire, and devastation.
Who was at your house with you?
My wife.
Where is she now?
Can't find her body.
More than 24 hours after Katrina wreaked havoc on the coast, stranded residents are finally being rescued.
Farther north, the storm weakens but continues to spawn twisters, extending its path of destruction.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Ferranda.
And I'm Greg Hirsch. Thanks for joining us. Heartbreaking. That's how the governor of Louisiana describes the situation in her state in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina.
Here is the latest. Louisiana's governor has called for a complete evacuation of New Orleans, including those people who were seeking shelter in the Superdome. That's because the water continues to rise after the break of 2 levees.
The death toll from Katrina will vary, but right now it stands at 50, but that is expected to rise. Mississippi's governor says he believes as many as 80 people could have been killed in his state alone. The Coast Guard has made hundreds of air rescues pulling people stranded on rooftops. There are now estimates that damage from Hurricane Katrina will exceed $25 billion.
And now the day after, we are finally getting in to see the damage. And really, the destruction is hard to comprehend. Air 11 today flew from Houston to New Orleans to give us a bird's eye view of the city, most of which remains underwater. 11 News reporter Jason Whiteley joins us with more on that and the latest on the evacuations in the Crescent City. Jason?
Well, Lisa, right now the Louisiana governor is telling us that the conditions in New Orleans tonight, she says they are rapidly deteriorating. 2 levees broke today. It flooded neighborhoods and plenty of businesses you're about to see. And as we speak, the city is under martial law. And as you just mentioned a moment ago, as we have learned also tonight, a complete evacuation is underway at this hour, including getting the more than 10,000 people who were sheltering inside the Superdome, getting them out of town. It is impossible to get in the city by car, as we have been mentioning the past 36 hours. So we did send Air 11 in to take a bird's eye view from the sky. Take a look here at what they found. Based in Baton Rouge Tuesday, Air 11 is giving us our first look at the extensive flooding and damage in New Orleans, going where cars can't, seeing what few have seen. Arriving in the city just before lunch, we first found the devastation in Metairie at the Clearview Shopping Mall, badly damaged here. A roof collapsed on a business nearby. Bone Ford and Bone Dodge on Veterans Boulevard in Metairie lost dozens of new vehicles to the floodwaters. Plus, take a look at this. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Department has one less patrol car now. This vehicle is barely visible in the floodwaters. Storm surge pushed dozens of boats at South Shore Harbor into the parking lot, even capsizing a yacht in Lake Pontchartrain. Here's what we saw flying over the lakefront airport, small planes strewn about on the tarmac. 36 hours after Katrina, residents who stayed behind are now suffering, carrying themselves and just a few belongings to higher ground, a commodity here that is hard to find. At this hour, it is unclear exactly where all the evacuees are going to be going. The ones coming from New Orleans, the 10,000 or so inside the Superdome, and the others who are trapped down there as well. Many expect them to come to Baton Rouge, to the LSU campus where we are. This is also where a lot of the staging is going on. There's a lot more on that Air 11 tape we didn't get a chance to show you since Air 11 just dropped it off a few moments ago, within the last hour actually, to show us. There are flooded cemeteries, there are floating coffins, there's looting, there are even more rescues on there. We're putting all that together to show you tonight at 6. For now, in Baton Rouge, Jason Whiteley, 11 News.
We got this video late today showing the causeway over Lake Pontchartrain. You can see some portions of the causeway have been damaged, some destroyed. And to make a bad situation worse, the enormous volume of water in the lake is now pouring into New Orleans through breached levees.
As Jason mentioned, authorities are preparing to evacuate the Superdome, where thousands of people have been huddled. The governor of Louisiana says the situation is untenable and heartbreaking. Information out of Mississippi tonight is shedding light on the horrific devastation there, where entire towns were reduced to rubble. 11 News reporter Jeremy Diesel spent the day checking out the damage and joins us now from one of the hardest hit areas. Jeremy?
Well, Lisa, I'm in a small town called Diamond Head that's kind of halfway to Gulfport from the Louisiana border. And as you can see, the devastation here is just amazing. It's total destruction. This strip center was literally ripped apart by the force of Katrina. And it wasn't just the winds that caused all of this damage here. The kinds of damage that we're seeing here is caused by storm surge that was as high as 30 feet, according to some residents here. Amazingly, many people here were able to get out, were able to get up into their attics and avoid the disaster that could have happened here. But along with the tales of destruction, there are amazing tales of survival.
Oh, there you are. Jason, I'm in town. Oh my God, you're alive. Oh, it's gonna go try to find you.
I swam out.
Did you?
I swam out.
John. You were where when the storm hit?
Down by LaCroix at my home. I actually ended up on the roof of the house.
And you had to get on the roof of the house because you had no choice?
That's correct. The water was coming in very, very fast. It was probably 25, 30 foot deep down there.
And how'd you get onto the roof?
Had to swim out through a window under the water and up into the roof.
And this is at the heart of the storm?
That's correct.
So how do you avoid the winds? How do you avoid the water?
I didn't. I stayed behind the chimney up there. And actually, I rid out probably 3/4 of the storm up on the roof of the house.
And that wasn't the worst of it?
The worst of it was getting out here. Swimming the 2.5 miles through 30 foot of water to get down here to meet my family.
An absolutely amazing story of survival, swimming for miles and miles and then walking another mile in bare feet. That man, when we found him, literally had only the shorts on his body. That's the only possession that he had. As you can see here in Diamond Head, it's like many of the smaller communities up and down the Gulf Coast. They're literally completely devastated. Whole neighborhoods that have been reduced to just pilings, no buildings anywhere in sight. And strangely, our cellular telephone works, but it only works right here at this location. And we've had several folks come up and ask if they can make phone calls off of our phone to other states to try to let people know that they're alive, including some faces that might be familiar.
You want to find your family, and then you don't care about the other stuff. That's just material, other than his trophies. And I mean, you know, we would take the first shelf off of the trophy cases, Lane and I were. We'd go do something else, then we'd come back and it's on the second shelf. And we never did get to the third, fourth, fifth. They all got wet.
Now that, of course, is the mother of Brett Favre, the Green Bay Packers quarterback, Benita Favre. She was able to use our telephone, and we were able to track down her son, and they were able to reconnect and let each other know that everything was fine and they were all right. Everything that they have down here destroyed, but what's important, and that's what we keep hearing from everybody that we talk to down here, they may have lost everything, they may have lost their homes, they may have lost all of their possessions, but they did not lose their lives, and that, they say, is the most important thing. In Diamond Head, Mississippi, Jeremy Diesel, 11 News.
Little perspective there, and the human toll from Katrina's devastation, though, still can be felt in one story after another. Harvey Jackson explained what happened after rising water came up to his roof, trapping him and his family inside their home, and that is when their lives changed forever.
Who was at your house with you?
My wife.
Where is she now?
Can't find her body. She gone.
You can't find your wife?
Oh, she told me, she told me. I tried. I hold her hand tight as I could, and she told me, you can't hold me. She said, take care of the kids and the grandkids.
Jackson's wife was swept away in the flood water. She's still missing.
Doc,
Yeah.
I guess we could just talk about what's going on in New Orleans and what's left of Katrina.
Yeah, let's talk about the flooding that's taking place there in New Orleans, because the storm has gone on by and it looked like that they had gotten by pretty good. But what happened, there was a break in the levee. Now let me show you what really has happened there. We're going to a map of the New Orleans area itself, and the storm center passed just to the east of New Orleans. And as it was approaching, of course, you had those southeast winds and filled up the lake. Now let me show you what's happening there in New Orleans itself. So we're going to take a closer look at New Orleans itself. Now you see that little white line there? That's a canal. And those canals are drainage canals. So when the city fills up, a big thunderstorm or something comes along, they pump the water up into the canals, and then the water runs up into the lake itself. Well, what's happened is that we have a break in the levee along one of those canals about this location. And so the water from the lake is spilling out into the city. And until they get that levee fixed, the Lake Pontchartrain is going to continue to empty down into the city itself. And that's why they've gotten all the water and all the flooding that they're experiencing today. It was a break in the levee. It wasn't the levee along the south shore was crested. They also have a levee all along the south shore there of Lake Pontchartrain. That wasn't breached. What was breached was the levee on one of those canals. And then so that until they get that fixed, they've just got a serious problem over there. You hear them talk about maybe evacuating the whole area. When we come back, we're going to talk about our weather.
All right. And Doc, we're hearing they may actually drop some huge sandbags from the air and try to stop up those levees and keep that water from spilling over even more. So hopefully that will work. We'll talk to you again in a few minutes.
Many of the people able to escape the rising water, climbing to the roofs of their houses, found themselves stranded. In many cases, the only way to get to them was by helicopter. This is the scene overnight in Pascagoula, Mississippi, as the Coast Guard pulled victims there to safety. Early this afternoon, it had reported rescuing 1,200 people. Now, officials fear many people may be trapped in their attics, unable to break through their roofs. Just west of New Orleans, you can see a Coast Guard rescuer who used an axe to chop through the roof there. They were able to pull one person to safety.
Other branches of the U.S. military are also being used to help in these rescues. In New Orleans, a man who had been stranded on his roof was pulled up by National Guardsmen to a Huey helicopter. Rooftop rescues are taking place all over New Orleans. Those with special needs are being floated to the Superdome, but will eventually be evacuated like everyone else. All others are being taken to the first dry spot the pilots can find.
The destructive force of Katrina continues well inland as monster twisters tear through Georgia and Tennessee.
Houston extends a helping hand to evacuees living in shelters.
It was exciting to be able to do something for someone.
And a convoy of CenterPoint Energy crews from Houston head east to restore power to the storm-ravaged coast.
It is still too early to tell when evacuees will be able to go home. And for now, thousands are making their temporary homes here in Houston.
The Red Cross has so many people needing help, it has now opened a third shelter. This one is near Baytown. 11 News reporter Mike Zintak spent the day with evacuees and has some of their stories.
Turkey. Okay, this is a turkey right here.
A filling lunch goes a long way to make strangers in a strange land feel at home.
So y'all are from New Orleans?
And the flood of Louisiana residents is growing. David Schopfer made it to Baytown Tuesday morning, a first-time evacuee.
Many times I stayed at home and took the gamble, rolled the dice, and everything worked out. This time, there was something about it that made us want to go.
Yeah, that's the first page. Look how high.
Destiny Sullivan and her family spent day 2 at the shelter looking at grim pictures of home. There are several little ones in the group, 12 people in all. Who knows when they can go back to New Orleans?
First we heard we will be here till Wednesday. Then they told us we'll be here till Friday. And then on the news they said no one might not be able to go back into the city until the end of September.
But people like Carla Nelson will be there for them. Their plight moved her to bring stuff for the kids.
It made me feel like I was doing something for somebody, and someday I might need that done for me.
And as the shelter filled up,
coloring books, jacks, colors, stuff to keep them entertained.
Carla Nelson made her delivery, and these children are grateful.
Now, we mentioned that the Red Cross opened a third shelter here at Memorial Baptist Church in Baytown. As you can see, there are already people here who are coming inside or have already gone inside. We also just got word they've opened a fourth shelter in Houston at St. Peter Claver Church at 6005 North Wayside Drive. Again, St. Peter Claver Church in Houston, 6005 North Wayside Drive. Red Cross officials also told us this afternoon they plan on taking care of these folks for up to 3 weeks. Live in Baytown, Mike Zentek, 11 News.
Tomorrow, you can help displaced victims of Katrina by donating to the Spirit of Texas Hurricane Relief Fund. We are teaming up with some Clear Channel radio stations, the Red Cross, and other businesses to raise money to help our coastal friends devastated by Hurricane Katrina.
And from the relief here at home to power people being sent out east. The CenterPoint Energy crew has already arrived in Louisiana. About 75 of the company's linemen and other personnel left Houston early this morning. This is the second wave sent out after Katrina. CenterPoint Energy already has crews on the southern tip of Florida where Katrina made its initial hit.
The team that left today will be joined in Louisiana by other groups of energy company employees across the country. 1.7 million customers in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida have no power.
As Tropical Storm Katrina headed north, the system spawned several tornadoes in Georgia. The twister slammed into an area southwest of Atlanta near the Alabama state line last night. Hundreds of homes were damaged or destroyed, including 15 large poultry houses. At least one death is being blamed on the storm, and several people were injured.
We're going back now to Mississippi and some of the worst damage from the storm. Dozens were killed in Biloxi, including about 30 people who tried to ride out the storm in an apartment complex. 11 News reporter Drew Levinson is live in Biloxi with more on this heartbreaking situation there. Drew?
Well, Greg, it really is a heartbreaking situation. The numbers, we're getting 80 dead, and they fear that the numbers could go into the hundreds. Let's show you a little bit about where we are. We are here on Biloxi Boulevard. This is the main thoroughfare between Gulfport and Biloxi. You can see this is a 4-lane road, or let me put it this way. This was a 4-lane road, and now that is what storm surge did to it. Those are 2 of the lanes. These are the other 2 lanes. This is how people are trying to get around, and you can see basically it looks like they're driving on the beach here. We'll show you some video of around Biloxi today and show you that almost every building, almost every structure, every home, nothing was unscathed. Everyone here felt the effects of this horrible, horrible storm. And again, 30 people were killed in an apartment complex where basically the apartment complex is gone now. We went over there and we talked to a number of people. They are wondering where their friends are. They fear their friends are now dead. And also, one last note, we spoke to a woman over there at that apartment complex, asked her the question to compare Camille to Katrina, and she said Katrina is not Camille's sister, rather Katrina is her mama. I think that spoke volumes.
You know, the scenes that we're seeing there, just where we just saw, reminded me a whole lot of what I saw there after Camille moved through in 1969. The same kind of destruction. But it almost seems unfair that while we have a disaster just a few hundred miles to the east of us, that same disaster, or the same weather system that caused that disaster, is bringing delightful weather to us here in southeast Texas. Putting the satellite pictures in motion, you can see Katrina moving up through Mississippi. It's up into Kentucky at the present time, where there's some tornadoes and there's some heavy rain there. But what a delightful day it was over the state. Northwest winds, they're light. It was warm. Temperatures even 101 down in the valley. Locally, we had 95 degrees, but look at that dew point. Dew point in the mid-60s opposed to the mid-70s. And so I was out today, and it really didn't feel all that bad because the air was a little bit drier. Northwest winds 5 to 10, and they will stay light over the next 24 hours. This is the broader picture, and you can see one more time the storm as it spins up through Mississippi, headed towards Kentucky, and you can see the rain extending from New York all the way back into Illinois. But this is what I want to call your attention to. A legitimate cold front moving down through the northwestern part of the country. That'll be in Texas by the middle of the week. It went through Salt Lake City today. They were 97 yesterday. You can see that they're cooler today at 85 degrees. Big question is, could that front make it all the way through southeast Texas? Well, let's put the maps into motion. You can see it'll move into the Midwest tomorrow, down into the state, over the northern part of the state at least on Thursday. It might get close enough to us to produce a shower or two on Thursday and on Friday, and there's a chance that it might go by and give us a bit cooler temperatures on Saturday morning. Our temperatures in the afternoon, though, with those northwest winds and with a lot of sunshine, it's going to stay hot. We'll be in the mid, maybe even the upper 90s, and that's the way it'll be as that front approaches on Thursday and Friday. So if we have any cooler temperatures, they will be on Saturday morning behind the front, and the air will be a little bit drier, so it's not going to seem quite as hot. So delightful weather here, disaster to the east of us.
You got that right.
Yeah.
All right, Doc, thanks.
Even though no one can get into New Orleans, help isn't far away.
Just about an hour away in Baton Rouge, emergency officials have gathered to begin rebuilding lives and the city. Baton Rouge has become the hub of emergency operations.
Many of the people and the organizations with the task of restoring storm-damaged areas are arriving there this evening. 11 News reporter Michael Ray is there with more on the mobilization process.
Work trucks from outside Louisiana arrive and depart from this Baton Rouge mall. Like an army on the move, drivers check maps.
We're going down to Levyville, I believe Levyville and Luling.
Go over plans of attack.
Hey, get a hold of your hands and get them all up here and sign these boards.
And stress coming out alive.
Don't take any chances. All right? And I'll see you guys in the field, all right?
Katrina blew down many southern Louisiana trees. Some of those trees grabbed wires. Both lost the fight. With as many as 1 million people now without power, thousands of workers leave here to fan out across the state. Fueled by adrenaline.
There's always an excitement when you come to a storm.
And sports drinks.
We just got plenty of Gatorade, plenty of water.
They will face more than just wood and wire.
Alligators, snakes, humidity is a lot different than it is in Texas.
These workers have come to Louisiana for adventure, overtime, and outreach.
Just try to do whatever you can to help everybody. Most times they're real appreciative of what you're doing. They know what you're doing. And like on the way up here, we have people passing by, waving at you, holding up thank you notes in the windows and stuff like that, man.
That figure of 1 million people without power comes from energy. The governor was asked about that figure earlier today. She said with the widespread devastation along the coast, there is simply no way to get an exact figure of the number of people who don't have power in this state. Michael Ray, live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 11 News. Greg, Lisa, back to you.
All right, Michael, thanks. People from Louisiana looking for news from home can now watch the CBS affiliate in New Orleans on Time Warner Cable here in Houston. You can see our sister station, WWL, on Channel 76 or digital cable, Channel 310.
Sending the gift of life to devastated areas and the call for more help.
Help from Houston to hurricane-ravaged Louisiana is now on the way at this hour.
170 units of blood were packed up and flown to Baton Rouge. From there, FEMA will take the blood to area hospitals. Local hospitals and the Gulf Coast Regional Blood Center had sent 100 units before the hurricane hit and are ready to send even more when needed. You can help the Blood Center during our Spirit of Texas blood drive. It is this Thursday and Friday. Donations will be taken at the American General Building on Allen Parkway. Please stop by and make a donation.
Some of the images captured by different photographers from organizations across the country, news gathering organizations, have just been unforgettable today. And we're going to leave you with some of those images tonight. And we'll be back with more tonight at 6. The CBS Evening News is coming up next.
We'll be looking for places to evacuate the rest of the folks who found themselves at the Superdome.
Louisiana's governor orders everyone out of New Orleans, even those who sought refuge in the Superdome.
That order comes as crews use helicopters and boats to pluck people from attics and off rooftops in New Orleans.
Oh! Are you okay?
A levee break and malfunctioning pumps have made a bad situation even worse.
Survivors are emerging with only the clothes on their backs.
Good evening, I'm Greg Hurst.
And I'm Jerome Gray. Thanks for joining us. The aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. The images are hard to describe, hard to comprehend. But for the next half hour, we will focus our attention on a natural disaster that has scarred so many lives.
So catastrophic is the destruction, some emergency officials are calling it biblical. Mile after mile, homes and buildings are nearly submerged. Survivors, the ones who stayed behind to weather the storm, now wish they hadn't. They had nowhere to go but up to their attics and ultimately out to the roof. Some people finally had to swim to higher ground. The physical damage, of course, is clear, but the emotional toll will no doubt be longer lasting.
All I can do is go from here to rebuild, but I'm pretty numb still.
There is a God. That's all I can tell you. God is good, because we could have drowned in that.
We're told most of the people who are believed to be dead were killed in areas where residents didn't listen to evacuation orders.
Here's the most up-to-the-minute information. The tens of thousands of people now huddled in the Superdome and other rescue centers will have to be evacuated because at least 2 breaks in levees from Lake Pontchartrain have flooded sections of New Orleans. Some 370,000 customers are still without electricity.
In Mississippi, there are as many as 80 deaths. According to the governor there, about 30 of those people died at one beachside apartment complex in Biloxi.
There are also 2 deaths in Alabama. More than 500,000 homes and businesses are without power.
Our reporters Jason Wiley, Janice Williamson, and Jeremy Diesel are on the coast gathering the newest information and pictures. We're going to begin with Jason on board Air 11 with a bird's eye view of the devastation.
When the sun came out, the situation only seemed to get worse for New Orleans. Air 11 gave us our first real sense of the devastation left by Hurricane Katrina. Among the first images the crew captured was this: a rescuer rappelling from a helicopter, getting a trapped victim away from rising floodwaters. This guy may be among the fortunate because rescuers actually reached him. The city's famous cemeteries are underwater tonight. Air 11 even saw this, a coffin floating. Locals tell us they were at least thankful it wasn't open. But while the city is on its knees, we found some residents taking advantage of it, apparently looting this Payless shoe store in Uptown. A Winn-Dixie was hit too, with locals carrying out food. Plus, this beauty shop also suffered from crime after it was flooded. Downtown is badly damaged. 330 rooms at the Hyatt Regency lost windows and furniture. The Superdome's new roof, just 3 years old and costing millions of dollars, is destroyed. Finally, City Park Stadium looks more like a bowl holding 8 to 10 feet of floodwater. Those who stayed behind likely wish they had left now, because life in the Big Easy is anything but. Right now, we are at the LSU campus in Baton Rouge, some 60 miles northwest of New Orleans. The classes are canceled here, so emergency officials can use many of these buildings as a staging area to help coordinate the rescues down there. At this hour, though, ambulances are bringing sick and elderly into a triage station that is set up just inside the campus's basketball arena, a few buildings from where we are right here. And Baton Rouge's hotels all around us are sold out for days, with Hurricane Katrina's refugees still waiting for word on when they can return to their homes in New Orleans. Reporting live, Jason Whiteley, 11 News.
And here is more of the crisis facing New Orleans right now. This is one of the levees that is broken open, allowing water from Lake Pontchartrain to pour into the city. The water is rising steadily. Homes are vanishing, and there is a frantic effort underway to save lives. Now, this water is polluted with chemicals and sewage. It is infested with alligators and snakes. Officials are trying to evacuate everyone who can be evacuated, and that includes the tens of thousands or the 10,000 people in the shelters as well as in the Superdome.
Now, maybe the worst hit was coastal Mississippi. Some communities there have been leveled, just reduced to nothing. 11 News reporter Jeremy Diesel has seen the damage near Biloxi and joins us live. Jeremy?
We're actually in a small community called Diamond Head, Mississippi, and damage doesn't seem like strong enough a word. When you look around here, it's literally everything has been destroyed in some areas. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some areas of neighborhoods that are north of the interstate where there are plenty of houses. They even have running water, and those houses look like nothing happened. But in other areas, like this neighborhood, literally everything has been destroyed, and things seem very, very out of place, like this. It's not often I can stand on a roof and not feel like falling, but this roof came from the building on the far side of me more than 200 feet away. All of it pushed by a gigantic storm surge. They moved to Diamond Head for the view.
There's nothing there.
Still spectacular, just beyond comprehension, especially when your bench is really a mailbox. If the businesses look bad, try the neighborhood.
If you go down there, there's not a house left, not one.
Literally, not one. Just pilings here now. Yesterday,
2- and 3-story $1 million homes, just huge homes.
The 20-plus foot storm surge more damaging than any wind. It's like nature's magician simply made a neighborhood vanish. But like any trick, the homes had to go somewhere.
It's in the woods between here and I-10, or it's even further than that, maybe.
That's not all City President Chip Mars expects to find. Casualties are expected too.
Our assumption is that anybody that stayed on the south side, if they didn't get out, we just don't know.
Sally Assertion just had to see for herself. See her house of 10 years gone. Nothing left to salvage. Well, almost nothing.
Found my mama's wedding ring and my daddy.
The emotional toll is rising here too. Also overwhelming.
You just have to pick yourself up by the bootstraps, and you got people that love you, and hopefully trust in God and we'll make it.
Like most towns in this region, the needs now are the most simple: food, ice, water.
We need prayers, guys.
Basics. Back to basics. You go back to basics when there literally is nothing else left. Mardi Gras is generally a party in this area. There won't be any memories from these masks out of this office complex. The section that you see behind me right here, this area that looks almost like just a regular parking lot with a slab, that used to be an office building. And on the far side of this parking lot, the roof of what used to be that office building. In the neighborhood behind me, that's where you saw all of those pilings. It's not any better. Literally, there is not a single house standing in any of the neighborhoods on either side. Amazingly, we're told by emergency officials who came here in a caravan a moment ago and went with ATVs out into the woods, they don't believe there to be any casualties from this neighborhood because they think folks were able to get to the other side of the freeway before the storm surge got worse. But we have talked to plenty of people who rode the storm out, had to swim to safety, all of their stories harrowing, and all of them not sure what they're going to do next, but all of them truly, truly aware of how good it is to be alive. In Diamond Head, Mississippi, I'm Jeremy Diesel. 11 News.